So this is 900 American Legion Road. Current owner is me, Ginger Garner. But who used to live here?
Well, the parents of Jan Kirkpatrick, married to Mark Kirkpatrick. McKinney's, right?
That's right. The house was built by Jack Anderson.
In 1966.
Yeah, roughly. I don't know exactly.
No, I know exactly.
Okay. So it's a year older than our house. I did a lot of artwork for the annual. I was on the annual staff. And I also did some other artwork. But one of the things I did for the annual was draw a bulldog. This is not my bulldog, but the story I like to tell is the local newspaper always printed a story about the graduates and had pictures of all the graduates. And they used my bulldog in their newspaper when they, for the artwork surrounding the title of the article. So I thought, well, that's not right. I drew it. And so I went to the newspaper office to talk to them about it because I figured they could at least give me credit for it. And I was summarily dismissed and told that I should be glad that they even used my bulldog. The reason this is significant, this is the football field that now is adjacent to the current Rockdale County High School facility. But before they moved from Main Street in Conyers, this part of the new complex was completed. So the football field was finished first. So our class, 1965, was the first class to actually graduate from the new school's football field. Then it was, I guess the next year, possibly, that the facility here was finished and students actually matriculated. But that's the football field from which I graduated. And as I like to tell everybody, from my husband's class of 46 in your class, to my class, we jumped to not 200, but close to 200 students. Pine Street, and this house is where my mother's brother, Albert Mann, and his wife, Cleela, lived after Mama and Papa were both gone. Both my grandparents were dead. And they moved out of the house that was next to the jail in town, and this is where they moved. And she stayed there for a good while after Albert died. So that's my connection here. Well, this is Pine Street Elementary, or was Pine Street Elementary. And when I left 4th grade, I was still over on Main Street, and they were building this new school. So I was able to come here in my 5th grade year, the year the school opened. So that's kind of memorable. Got it. And I was just going to say one more thing. One of my favorite teachers taught me that year, and that was Miss Roy Lackey. All right, the building here we're seeing the back of was the post office in Old Town for as long as I remember growing up, before they moved it out on Green Street.
And we're at the corner of Main and Milstead.
Correct. And this is I guess you say the new part of the courthouse, the 3-story addition. But the reason I'm pointing it out is this area, this lot, this land was the site of the cannery, which was a facility where people could bring their produce and their meats in from the outlying areas and have them professionally sealed in cans. And my mother's father, James Mann, worked there for a while when they moved to town.
This door here at the church is where we got married in '67. It is where, when the wedding was over, we came out that door and got covered in rice. And I had hid my car, which was a new 65 Impala, yellow, right below the jail. To my right now is where the car was hid in a shed. So we ran down the street, jumped in it before they could mess the car up.
And what church is this? First
Baptist of Conyers.
Also at the corner of Main and Milstead.
And then that little staircase to the left of the church there was where Randy and my best man stood before the wedding, and I told him, I said, you know, this is time for both of us to run. We still got a chance. But that's history.
This is the old jail right behind the courthouse. And it's significant to me because when I visited my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, the jailer and his wife and children lived here, and the kids would be out playing, and it was just weird to think that there were children living in a jail. And I'd be out in the yard and we would kind of wave at each other, but we never really interacted. And I don't know if they were stigmatized by that, knowing that about them or not. Now, where I lived on College Avenue, I could walk to either set of grandparents' homes. And coming this way, I made sure to cross the street and be on the other side when I got close to the jail, because the prisoners would be in the window up there and they would holler out inappropriate things to especially young girls who happened to walk by, or young women who walked by. And there was a lot of pedestrian traffic back then. So that was always spooky. So I was on the other side of the street till I got past the jail, and then I would cross the street to go to Mama and Papa's.
Which was right next door.
Right, which was right next door to the jail.
You know, back when I was little, I would visit my cousin, which lived right down the street, and we'd walk to Conyers and come by the jail, not knowing the lady that lived next to the jail here was my wife's grandmother. And we would stop and sit on the porch with her and sing, and she'd rock in the swing. And at that time, I didn't even know Janine. But she sure was a nice lady and smiled and welcomed everyone. Okay, we're on Millstead Avenue, crossing the Roebuck's house, and actually to the right where we are now was Janine's grandmother. And the house we're looking at now, the White House to the right, was Mercer Hull. He was president of the Bank of Conyers at one time. That was his house, and then when he died, it turned into a shelter, a women's shelter, which it is now.
All right, and then if you are looking to the left, we've got homes that existed back into my childhood. The Ogletrees, he was a local postman. The Roebucks.
And the empty lot where you are now was where Ms. McIlvaine lived.
And on down Millstead Avenue, Mrs. Stoker and the Purcells.
And that was Mr. Ogletree's house that's in the view now. He was one of the postmen that walked around Conyers delivering mail.
Right out of Norman Rockwell. This is the original building that I know about of the First Baptist Church of Conyers. It's no longer a church. It's part of the county administrative offices. But this is where Ray and I got married. The church was part of my growing up. I attended church here and Sunbeams and Vacation Bible School. And my grandparents had a big part in this church. My grandfather, my daddy's father, was a deacon, and I know they contributed lots of money and time to the church. So it was natural that we choose it for our wedding. None of the other buildings existed at the time, but to me this was a huge building. It doesn't look so big now.
This is the old Coca-Cola building. Where the window is now is where they had a big picture window, and you could watch the bottles being filled and going along a track to be put in a case, a wooden case. And one time there, our class would walk down from Main Street old high school, walk down the street and view the Coca-Cola being made, and they would also issue us candy while we were there watching.
Yeah.
And Janan's daddy, Robert McDonald Sr., also worked here at his early age and delivering Coca-Cola on the Coca-Cola truck in cases to different stores around Covington and Newbern.
And this is off Main Street between Carter's Alley and Elm.
Right across from First Baptist Church. The vacant lot you're looking at now used to be a
Mechanic.
Stevenson's body shop. Used to be a garage there, and also to the right was a livery stable and a blacksmith. And to the left, the big building you see now used to be Man and Walden's funeral home years ago.
And for a time, it was an Italian restaurant.
Right.
Then an antique store.
Yeah.
All right. Now it's Jorge
Flores.
Law Office. You're looking at now is the back of the Conyers Theater, and to the right was the back of the stores that was on Center Street, which is Bennett's used to be, and the building to the right is Walker Owens building, and Walker Owens and the Trading Center used to be partners in the appliance business, and we worked together. And as I came up working on television, that top right window, it was a TV shop, and me and Ralph Myers, the other technician at that time, would stand and watch people in this parking lot and watch shenanigans going on and thefts and anything else we could see, because it was a good viewpoint. And to the left, the other two windows was upstairs at Walker Owens, where they had recliners and chairs. The building you see now is still part of the Clay building, and the jewelry store is to the right. And there used to be an alleyway, still is, through to Main Street. But back when I was a teenager, going to the theater here on Saturday afternoons and Saturday night, Friday night, they had a ladder going up this section, up to the next section, and all the way to the top. The city police would go all the way to the front, where they could see everybody coming into the theater and everybody riding up and down the road on Main Street with fast cars and spinning tires, and then they would catch them and write them a ticket. This is mainly done at night, when they would go up and view. And back to the right here was the back of where I worked for many years with Walker Owens, and this dilapidated door there was a nice door. That's where we brought the furniture in and out, making deliveries. And the one on to the left was where we carried appliances in to repair them. There's a shop there in the back right there.
And why is it called the Clay Building?
Well, the man, Mr. Clay, and his wife used to show moving pictures in tents. They traveled around, and people would pay to come and watch a movie. But as the times changed, I guess he could foresee a little bit of the future, he decided he wanted a brick and mortar building in which to show movies. So this was the movie theater, and since his name was Clay, it's called the Clay Building. They were the grandparents of Laura Young. They were the maternal grandparents of my friend and childhood friend Laura Young. This building, starting at this corner and all the way to what was once the Trading Center, was Gailey's Dry Goods Store. One of two in the downtown area. The door you're looking at is the back door. Not to say you couldn't come and go there. A lot of people did. Boy, yes, a lot of traffic through here. The shoe department was right inside that door at the time. Then somehow, I guess mid-60s, they added on, or rather took over, another small area of commercial interest right next door to them and put a separate shoe store. It connected by a doorway, but it was still Gailey's Shoes. And that's where I worked when I was in high school. And it was very convenient because my boyfriend worked right next door at the trading center.
Right here, modern day air conditioning now, but back when we had a business right next door, this was Gailey's swamp cooler. It was a big, tall cooler that ran water and blew moist, cool air into the building to resemble air conditioning. And to the right, this new addition was added on later. And on further to the right, where the glass door is, that was the trading center in 1963. And that was our back entrance to the trading center. This is the Conyers Depot. I remember when I was younger, in my teenage years, the mail truck would hold a bag on a pole to the right, and as the conductor in the caboose would get out with another arm and swing and pick up that bag of mail without the train stopping. And watched that a lot of times, and just brings back a lot of memories. And right behind in that building, beyond that, outside the railroad track, is a Conyers Motor Company. It used to be the Chevrolet company. That's where I bought two new cars. I bought the 65 Impala there. And then in 69, I bought a Camaro that I still have. And but that's where they came from. That Camaro was in the showroom floor at that time, from Bob Brooks Chevrolet. Cephas Christian was a salesman at that time.
This was Walker Owens.
Walker Warren.
Excuse me, thank you, Walker Warren Drug Company. And Skinny Walker was the proprietor. I didn't know the Warren part.
I knew
but,
him.
Oh, you did? Skinny's daughter, Susan, was a grade ahead of me in school. She and I were friends. We didn't live so far apart in Old Town. And they had the soda fountain, which is still working today. In this part, you go in here for the soda fountain and drinks, food, sandwiches. And as you progress down to the back end of the building, in fact, there's a door that leads right into the part where the pharmacist was, and all the drugs were kept in that back corner. Inside is where the telephone booth that now resides in the depot, thanks to the Historical Society, that's where the telephone booth came from. And back in there, they had the ice cream parlor type tables and stools and benches, and you go back there and sit and eat and talk and visit. And I believe Ray's sister Betty worked there at one time. I never worked there, but
She worked there.
Yeah, she worked there for a time.
And this is the corner of Center and Commercial Street.
Correct. This building, although it says First National Bank, I knew it as the Bank of Rockdale. And the reason it plays a role in my life is my father worked there before he decided to run for clerk of court of Rockdale County. And unfortunately, when he lost the election, they wouldn't hire him back. So he had to seek employment elsewhere, therefore became the birth of the trading center.
This is the front of the trading center. It's where I started to work in 1963, next to Gailey's Shoe Store, which is to the right. It's where Janann worked. That was convenient for me. But they used to have the drawing every Saturday afternoon right here in front of that telephone pole at 2 o'clock. And this street would be covered in people waiting for the name to be called.
What were they drawing for?
Actually, the top prize was $25 back then. That was almost a week's worth of pay. And every time you'd buy merchandise from one of the people in the town here, merchants, they'd give you a ticket. You just put your name on it, throw it in the basket, and they'd turn. And there was a picture. It used to be in Old Charlie's from the archives. Had a picture of the people standing in front of this store here in Trading Center at the drawing time. When we moved in here in '63, we left in '79 and moved out in 138. The traffic of people shopping had changed to shopping centers, and the old town was dying out at that time. And then when we moved out, the building was condemned because of the structure, the cracks in the wall, floors bucked up, there's water underneath these stores because of the drainage in the back. And now they had to redo the entire building, roof and all, for them to have what they have in there now. This used to be the bank of Conyers back in the day, and I can remember riding into town on a Saturday to come to the drawing, and we were in the Olde soda. We came around and came into this parking space and didn't have any brakes, and jumped the curb and ran into the granite wall. Just luckily somebody wasn't standing there at the time. And to the right of that was the barber shop, and above that was the dentist. Mr. Cornwell was the dentist at that time, and you had to go up the staircase, which you still have the staircase there, to go to the dentist office.
Who was driving the car?
My daddy, Floyd Garner. This is the building where Henson Furniture Company was located. And to my knowledge, that Henson, Clarence Vaughn married a Henson, and they had the furniture company here. Then it changed to 3M Furniture Company for years, and just sold furniture only.
And we're on Commercial Street. This is right next to the former bank, or the pawn shop currently.
And to the right of that, the building there used to be Kent's Cafe, and now it's called the Blaylock Building. My brother-in-law's brother bought the building, and he had a jewelry shop there where he would make different pieces of jewelry out of gold, and he sold that, but it's still under the Blaylock Building. It used to be a water fountain on the outside of the building, 2 of them, matter of fact. One says colored and the other says white. And everybody would, naturally, white people go to that one. And my mother and daddy told me, don't use the other one. And so one day I went and tried that, and drank water where it said color. And I couldn't tell any difference.
This is a restaurant and tavern now known as the Whistle Post, but it was originally Holmes Feed and Seed, and the Holmes mentioned is my uncle. He was married to my father's only sister, Bess. It was E.D. Holmes. From that family, I got my cousins, Betty, Edith, and Ernest Holmes. Now, I didn't know they could ever do anything with the odor because the building just reeked of cotton poisoning and other things essential to farming, fertilizer. But they were able to convert it into a restaurant. Surprise, surprise. We would come here occasionally and buy seedlings or tomato plants in the spring, and Uncle Holmes was right at home in his element here. All right, this is the dinky. Now, the dinky was the engine that transferred goods from the station here in Conyers to the mill in Milstead. And my recollection of what my father told me was that he and his brother would sometimes hitch a ride because my grandparents lived not too far from the tracks over in Old Town, and that was a fun thing for them to do, was to hitch a ride out to Millstead.
I can remember the dinky. When I was in high school, we didn't have air conditioning, and we was up on the 3rd floor at Main Street, and the dinky would come from Millstead, north of Conyers, and come back down to Conyers, and all that black smoke coming out where it was burning coal would come in the school windows, and all you'd hear is the whistle blowing and all that black smoke.
And I believe, if I'm correct, the dinky got away from us, meaning that it left Conyers and was housed in a museum in Tifton. And the Historical Society was responsible for raising the funds and working with the city and the county to get the dinky back home here to Conyers. And
the trading center at that time, we put an ad out in the paper. If people bought appliances, every piece of appliances or electronics, we'd donate a percentage to the fund to get the train back to Conyers.